to another episode of Relate to You. We are so excited to see you guys again. And we're really excited for today's episode because it has been a while since we've done one of your guys' favorites.
Yes.
And
yes.
part of the reason is because I think we thought we were out
Yeah.
of stories, but it seems that we're not. So today we're going to be sharing some embarrassing stories. Really not in a theme, just embarrassing stories in general.
Because we figure that there's always something embarrassing about
There's
our
always
lives.
just something that we do or
Just
have
when we
happened.
just when we thought we didn't have more stories, turns out we do.
Turns out we do. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna start about the car seat story. So a little bit of some fun facts for Kez is that I used a car seat until I was 9 years old. And when I mean car seat, I don't mean like a booster seat. Like I mean the legit, like back in the 90s, early 2000s, they had this almost kind of like a roller coaster type. No, I'm being serious.
I always thought it was a booster.
No, it was never a booster. Like my patas were like, there was something in between. And then there was like this thing. I remember it was like kind of like I would rest my arms on it or something. And I wore this or used this until 9 years old. And that car seat, I don't have, I always see if I can try to find some pictures because that would be really fun to see. But the thing about this car seat is that it was also used to control me. Prior to the story, my mom would actually, there's a video out there that we are having a Christmas party. I had to have been at least 3. At least. Well, actually, I was born 1995. No, I was 2. Because the video was made in 1997 of December.
Okay.
So I was 2 years old, and my mother took this car seat down, and in the video you will see Kez in a corner con unos chetos in this car seat in a corner para que no corra. Like my mom literally would put me in this thing so that she could be like, okay, I know you're there.
You're in a movie.
And it wasn't like your regular little car seat where there's a baby. No, this is like someone took the car seat from the car, carried it into the house. There's the 2-year-old, give her chetos and some Nesquik, and she'll be pretty much set for the rest of the evening hasta que ya no soporta.
Okay. So it wasn't out of precaution. Like, it wasn't because your mom overprotected you. It was to control you.
I think it was overprotection, and I think it was also maybe to give her a break. Because my mom says that when I was little, I was very like, no me quería quedar que me agarren. I wanted to run around. So I feel like it was a chance for her to be like, I can't be watching you and running after you every 5 minutes. So I'm going to stick you in this and give you something to entertain. There was no iPads back then, so it was Chetos and Nesquik. And that's what I would, do. But that's not the embarrassing part. Because this is,
haven't got it.
Relatively normal, because you could say, okay, she's 2 years old. She's still at an age where she should be using a car seat. But I didn't stop using it until I was 9. And the reason for this is because my mom knew that there was a law, a California or I don't know, U.S. law that said in order for a child to basically stop using a car seat, they need to be 60 pounds.
Oh.
And at the time, the brief period in my life where I was thin, I was never 60 pounds. I was 6, 7, 8, 9, and I was still not 60 pounds.
Wow.
I would vary from 50 pounds to 50. I think the most I got was like 58, even 59. My mom was like, no you have not hit the 60. She was so set that if, God forbid, I was 1 pound lighter, that would be the make or break in a car
You're
accident.
Back in the car seat.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was 9 years old using a car seat, and the embarrassing part was that I don't know what grade you are in at that point, but I remember that I was in that car seat because I was so thin, even though my legs would hang.
3rd grade?
Maybe
no,
third grade?
2nd grade?
No me acuerdo.
No sé.
El caso es que mis amigas me vieron. They were walking in the sidewalk, así con la señora con el stop sign, and they see inside the van, and I make eye contact them in my seat, my car seat, and they're kind of like, and I was like trying to sumirme in the already very locked car seat. And I basically was mortified and I was dreading the encounter. I get down, I talk to them, obviously, and they were like, why are you using a car seat? And I was just like, because I'm not 60 pounds. Like, how does that even make sense at that age? Like, I didn't even fully understand what that meant. No, hombre. Y sabes que es lo más triste de esta historia, es que es la razón por la cual estoy gorda. Because from that point on, I was so embarrassed. I was like, I have to gain weight. I cannot.
Oh, okay.
So I started eating a lot. This is a true story. And I never stopped, Luna. I never stopped. After 64, 67, I was like, okay, mija, ya le puedes parar. No. I just kept going and going. I mean, I got so fat that like sixth grade, all I wore was suits, jumpsuits. I had 3 different colors.
Hey, but you stopped wearing the car seat.
I mean, I stopped wearing the car seat, but now I had a whole nother problem. I mean, it was a really hard time, and because of that, I was always a chunky kid. I mean, through middle school, through high school, adulthood.
Oh, Dios mío.
Todo por un miserable car seat.
But you know what? I knew this because I think at church you even had
a car seat.
It was a well-known story.
Maybe. I mean, I feel like
maybe
would have known.
It was a known story because I remember when we were children, mi mamá would say, "Can you believe que la hermana Toñita todavía usaba el asiento para los..." And I remember thinking to myself,
oh my God.
How?
I'm feeling the shame all over again. Can you imagine that there were other mothers? And like nowadays, we have those conversations of like, dude, you know, who's doing this with their kid and they're doing that? That's what they were doing with me.
Well, I think my mom, I don't know if your mom told her as a story. And then my mom was like, could you believe, you know, kind of like,
right.
Let me tell you, you know?
It is weird.
So because of that, we obviously, I don't think my mom ever like gave us more details. She just said that like, oh, this happened. So because of that, I always assumed it was a car booster or whatever.
No. It was a full-on car seat.
And it wasn't until right now, I was like, oh, full-on car seat.
It was a car seat. And it was the source of some trauma. Some trauma I'm still dealing with to get rid of. So the moral of the lesson here is, guys, you know, when you do something, you know, you might not think that they could have long-term consequences. They can.
They do.
You know, those parents that might be watching our podcast, you know who you are. You might be doing something right now with your kids where you're like, I'm being a little bit overprotective. They have consequences. Just know that. You might get a fatty when they're older. So.
No.
So you never know.
Just kidding.
Tag.
There's no way I'm gonna like. I'm not going to.
I wanted to get that one out.
I'm not going to.
I wanted to just get it out.
No voy a superar esa historia with one of mine, but I'll try my best. I think that one just took the cake.
If we had a sound effect for like, oh, like a bunch of crowd saying, oh, that's the button I would click right now. Of like, man, she got fat out of that.
I don't think that's a button I would click for that.
Just laughing.
Anyway, for me, I was thinking if my mom ever did something that you know, for my good, but it embarrassed me.
Okay.
And yes, and as I was thinking about it, it was coming. It was coming to me. So back in Mexico, we had a thing where all the parents would, well, not, or rather, the teachers would ask the parents to clean the classroom.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was a form of making the parents a part of school,
The
I guess. Yeah, a
responsibility.
part of the responsibility, which I thought it was a good thing. However, for working moms, for single moms, in my case, it was a very hard situation because you had to go early to clean the room, right, very early, because over there in Mexico they have a thing of called turno matutino y turno vespertino. What that means is that because there's so many kids, the schools work in two
Sure, the early bird and the late bird.
yes. And so we were the early birds. And so my mom, in order for her to go clean the classroom, she had to wake up earlier than usual so she could be at her job, which uh, I mean, it was her own business, but still, she had to open at a certain time because she
Right.
already had customers at that time. So, and parents had to do it for a whole week. So for a whole week, it wasn't just
Le
like one
toca a
day.
ella nomás.
For a whole week nos tocaba a todas nosotras. And I remember that the first and second grade, I don't remember if she did that in first grade, but I remember in second grade, I was already kind of getting bullied, again. But it wasn't as bad as I believe first grade. No. Second grade was just as bad. Never mind. But that's not the funniest part. The the funny part is I was already kind of being left out of a lot of groups because I was just not clicking in with the kids. I don't know. So I remember that time my mom came and we cleaned. But obviously my mom, maybe she was in a rush. I'm not too sure what happened. Maybe it wasn't even my mom. I don't know. But we sort of clean because we had to clean every desk. We had to mop the floor. We had to clean the windows y todo eso, right?
Not today.
No, that wouldn't fly
Not at
today. Can you
all.
imagine asking a parent come and clean the classroom? Oh,
No, sí.
please.
Sí, para la iglesia no podemos, imagínate la escuela. No.
Or maybe para la escuela lo hagamos porque la iglesia has to accommodate to you, remember?
Sure.
Anyway, and so I remember that every single day of that week, she was always in a rush. She needed to leave.
Right?
So, and she needed to, because she used the public transportation. So it was like, if you didn't catch it at this time, oof,
Oh, ya
you're already backed up in traffic y todo eso. So I know my mom was trying her hardest. So occasionally there were puddles on the floor because again, it's not like a nice floor like here. It was like concrete.
Oh,
It was concrete, but it was kind of like gloss, like when you go to Vallarta. Have you seen the floor?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
like that. It was that type of
Okay.
floor. Entonces, a veces se quedaba como little puddles de que no lo podíamos limpiar.
Claro.
O again, because maybe she was rushing, se le olvidaba. I love you, mom. And so, I remember, siempre limpiábamos con,
Fabuloso.
no, pinol.
Oh.
Pinol. Most people like Fabuloso, but we enjoy Pinol.
Is that supposed to be pencil?
No, Pine Sol. It's Pine Sol. Pero yo...
That's what I said.
that's what you said? I heard pencil. I was like,
Pencil.
Pine Sol. Okay.
I like pencil.
Anyway, yeah. So, but a lot of people use Fabuloso. And good thing you mentioned it because that ties into my story. So, people started making fun of me because, making fun of me and making fun of my mom too, because they were like, oh, tu mamá no limpia bien, mira cómo dejó aquí. And they would jump on the puddle or whatever. And then it became a thing of like, ay, ¿tú usas pinol? Porque nosotros usamos Fabuloso. I don't know if maybe Fabuloso was more expensive.
It is.
I
It
don't
was,
know.
well, not more expensive, but it was more common.
Yeah. So maybe it was a thing. And it was like, había niñas que llegaban al salón y luego, oh, pinol, guacala, whatever, and they would do it just
To spite you.
yeah. So in a way, it was embarrassing to me. It was embarrassing to me. It was like, yes, and to see my mom do it the following day again, and it'd be like, ma, y me acuerdo que yo le decía, ma, podemos limpiar más aquí, mire, le hizo falta más aquí. Le decía, oh, sí, mija, sí, y ya, y todo eso, pero it had to be that, of like, I don't want to be ostracized later on. But I promise it wasn't supposed to be a sad story.
You know what's so funny? Pause. So many of Lula's stories is like, you don't know what's trauma until you tell the story. Because your reaction is like, that's kind of a sad story. And she's like, it was so funny.
I know. I've noticed that I give a twist to my story.
Yes. It's still, we'll find the humor in it.
Yeah. And so, that's happening, right? Y todo eso. Y me acuerdo que we didn't really hang out with this girl and I, but I remember that maybe she was going through the same situation. I don't know, pero she wasn't really like a friend. And I don't even remember like how it happened. But I remember que one day, I think it was either the last day or the day before the last day, where I feel like maybe she heard how the toda la semana they just went at it. If it wasn't because of the fabuloso, it was because of the, like, ay, ya dejaste charquitos otra vez, or, whatever. But I remember una de esas, I want to say it was the last day, porque the way she came back at those girls, it was like she herself was fed up. So I remember que, the usual, they all come in with like, ay, well, family, blah, 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 blah. I'm just there sitting in my chair, like looking down, like, oh, like, okay, I wanted this to be over. And I remember in the back, all the way in the back, this girl gets up and she goes, ya me traen harta. Y yo, and I turned to look at her and she's like, todas ustedes. Todas aquí somos pobres. And I'm like, dude, it's second grade. How old are we? Yeah, we're second grade. But then again, Mexican kids are,
more mature.
Yeah, more mature at that age. But we're what, 8? 9? 8, 9?
Por ahí.
Yeah, and so I remember this girl, ya me traen harta. Todos aquí somos igual de pobres. ¿Qué tiene que ser Pinol o Fabuloso? Y yo, yes, right. Peak. Yeah, and then the other girls, just stood there looking at her. And she's like, y ni siquiera está mojado el piso, miren. Y she starts going like this to show them, like, miren. And she fell. No. And because, okay.
Oh my God, you defended her, right?
Whoa, hold on. All the girls start laughing, right? So I felt bad because I knew that what she was doing was right. And somehow, even though it didn't feel like she was, it felt like she was defending me. So I was like, yes. But I also, at the same time, remember, Lula, second grade Lula, very quiet, very, intimidated by everyone. I kind of just sort of like me hice más chiquita. And I remember, here's what made me feel embarrassed the most, was that she looked at me como por ayuda, como like do something, Y yo nada más le hice, y nada más me volteé, and I stayed in my chair. But, and maybe after that we couldn't have been friends porque I moved out. I changed schools. But I remember that she gets up and she tells the girls, ríanse, no me importa. Pero lo que dije es la verdad. Todas somos pobres. Todos aquí somos pobres. Y ya, and it went like that. Y ya como que after that, I don't remember, honestly. I don't think we ever were friends because I don't remember having friends in second grade, like at all. But maybe, but what I do remember is that day, as I was going through the whole situation, it made me laugh that she fell. But I also felt bad with myself. Like, it was that weird experience as a kid, as an adult. I feel like obviously you laugh y tú defiendes y haces más cosas. Pero as a kid, for me, it was weird because it gave me secondhand embarrassment.
Que ella se cayó
to defend me in a way. But at the same, and it also gave me and I mean, I felt very ashamed of myself because I was like, I couldn't get up and do something to her, you know? Um,
In Hallmark.
but at the same time, the bullying got worse. So in a way, it was like I would have been digging my own grave had I defended her.
We don't know that.
I yes,
We
you're
will
right.
Never
Yes,
know that.
you're right.
In Hallmark, you were supposed to defend her, and you were supposed to be best friends for life.
Maybe, but that didn't happen. I felt embarrassed.
You went like a turtle.
I felt yes, not just like a turtle. I was like a deer in the lights. I was just like, what's going on? Even as she was defending me, I myself was. I had a hard time understanding what was happening because again, the words I don't know, but I feel that what she was saying was a very mature thing
It
to
was.
say. You know,
And you probably didn't fully understand, maybe even why you were being bullied.
no, I actually never, you know,
Like, why Pinol and not,
and not fabuloso, yes. So, or I mean, the charcos, I get it, I guess, you know, but for me, it was, para mí, for him, for example, the thing was that I was just happy that my mom was doing something for me
Right.
because she was, it was really hard to spend time with her because she was always working. So for me, it was like, yes, I get this. Was it like an hour with my mom, just her and I. So for me, that was enjoyable. So when they started bullying me out of that, I had this weird sensation of, I enjoy this moment with my mom, but at the same time, if she does a bad job, I get the end of it. You know, so it was awkward for me to go about it like, Mom, can we clean this again? Or,
Right.
you know, or I remember, I have a feeling that I might have asked her, can we use Fabuloso instead of Pinol? I don't think that ever happened, you know, because, you know, moms are going to be like, why?
Why?
You know, why? I already have
Yeah.
Pinol. So I think that for her, for my, I don't think my mom ever realized what happened. And I don't think, this is a story that I don't think I've shared with my sisters. But I remember that what she said, it stayed with me so much so that
Yeah.
till this day I still remember it because even as a child, I don't think that was my first time feeling embarrassed about my actions, but it was definitely a moment where I didn't know how to handle like justice,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or standing up to injustice, and I didn't know how to handle like even my own like. It felt good that someone was trying to defend me, but at the same time, I couldn't defend back.
You were not strong enough.
Yes, I couldn't defend back. You know, I couldn't. And it was hard for me. So I promise you guys, embarrassing stories don't have to be funny.
No, they don't. No,
But
they don't.
That was my embarrassing.
You were embarrassed, and it's so funny that it kind of fits perfectly with my story, my second story, because we're talking about you kind of coming into awareness of like, oh, this is the first time I've ever encountered something that's good that is now a bad experience, but also you're also discovering for the first time that you're not strong enough to match someone else's energy in that kind of situation. Mine has also to do a little bit with justice. This was the first time I could have gotten into a fight.
Oh.
So I was, I believe, 11 or 12. And there was someone who I bullied, along with other girls in the church, I might add. But for the purposes of the story, let's just say it was just me. And there was a girl who did not deserve any bullying, but we'd pick on her. And she was defenseless, much like in your story. And she was just easy target, you know? It was just easy to target, to pick at her. And I remember, I say this story not proud, but we went to a camp. The bullying continued. And she never said anything. Most kids never say anything. And I had already had some experience with bullying in elementary school where I had bullied other children. And it's the truth. I'm sorry. It's I don't worry. I got bullied eventually, and I got my lo que me merecía, right? You know, but I started as a bully. I should say that.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a sense, because I had experienced this in elementary school, kind of passing this on in church, it wasn't like new territory. It was easy. It's like, so anyways, we come back from camp, and this girl has a cousin, a much taller and slightly older cousin. Y yo ahí voy con dos primas tuyas. Y you know, we're, you know, just going about our business and not even thinking about what has transpired in the last couple of weeks with camp. Not even thinking, you know, I'm not thinking my words had any consequence. And this cousin comes up to me. And if I was 11 or 12, she had to have been like 13, 14. And she said, I heard you've been talking smack about my cousin.
Oh.
And immediately, I'm on guard, right? I'm just like, what? And mind you, in elementary school, I had a very bad habit that I always had like a bodyguard because I was small. I was thin. You know, I was thin. I was really short, you know. So I always made sure that there was someone in my group that was super tall.
Wait. Before you move on, you did that purposefully thinking like
Yes, yes.
Wow.
My bullying when I was in elementary, the way I got all of my friends was by icing them out. So I would say, okay, everyone, we're going to stop talking to Lula. And then Lula wouldn't have any friends. And then I would go to Lula and be like, why doesn't anybody want to be your friend? I don't know. I'll be your friend. And then I would be super nice to them. And that's how I'd gain their loyalty. I know. I'm not proud of it.
Psychotic tendencies.
I had a lot of them. And so I always had someone in my group who was very tall, sometimes chubby, that if I needed a situation where I needed to be defended, and because I had the brains, I didn't have the strength, they would take care of it.
Oh.
I guess I would say in some form, I think Edith and Karina would have played that role of like, in the event, you guys are going to meterse, ¿verdad? Porque yo no, I don't get my hands dirty. So she comes up to me, not to anybody else who was also in participation, might I add. It was me. And she's like, I heard you were talking smack about my friend or my cousin and blah, blah, blah. Y ahí la prima, pobrecita, she was timid. And I wouldn't say she was like, yeah, tell her. She was just like, I feel like she confided in her. I feel she was like, this girl was mean. She's over there, you know, blah, blah. And the cousin's probably like, we're not going to have none of it.
Yeah.
So she goes off on me, and she's not Christian. Neither was my behavior, might I add. But she's like going off on me, and she's saying words that like I'm like, you know, that's like curse words, and she's saying stupid and like stuff like that. And she's like,
gangster.
she's gangster. You're this and you're that, and she tells me, I'm gonna beat you up right here. I'm gonna like basically mop your face with the floor, the floor with your face or whatever.
Whatever, hey, whatever the order,
salió, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm just like internally looking at Edith, looking at Karina, and I'm like, they're not doing anything.
I'm on my own.
I'm straight up on my own. And so she's going off, and she's getting closer to me. So I feel the like panic. So I said, give me a second. I walk away and I go inside the church. Now, there was a period in my life where Annie didn't like me, my older sister. So she's a youth. She's popular in the church, and she's talking to all her youth friends and blah, blah, blah. And I'm coming up to her, and I'm pretty sure she's like, what do you want? You know, like, ¿qué quieres? And I'm straight face, super serious. Edith and Karina are slowly like walking behind me, like kind of like, what are you gonna do? You know, are you gonna tell on her, whatever? And I go up to Annie, and I just lose it. I lose it, and I press my face to her chest, and I'm like. And she's like, ¿Qué tienes? What's wrong? Edith and Karina, at this point, I'm probably having secondhand embarrassment. Like, why are you crying like this? Why are you crying like someone died? And she pulls me away. Because
someone was about to die.
She pulls me away from her, just like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, this girl wants to hit me, and I was bullying her, and she's outside, and I'm like straight up crying y todo. And Edith and Karina are super like, they're like, I think they were in shock of
I'm
like,
sure,
they're
yeah.
like, they didn't expect me to end up like that. And so I somehow compose myself. Annie kind of tells me like, go resolve it, whatever you did, apologize. I come back to see the girl. The girl's almost like, you're so pathetic. This is not even worth it.
She isn't even funny.
No, she literally was like, she tapped my shoulder.
I know.
She's like, it's all right, dude. It's all right. And I'm like, and she's tapping my shoulder, and she's like, all right, like we're good.
Oh,
Wow. And
wow.
I'm just like, I'm sorry, and I apologize to the girl. I'm so sorry for what I said, and I didn't mean to, and blah blah blah. And I think like my brain was for the first time in her life seeing my words have consequences, and not just like consequences like where your mom might punish you, but like you could get your butt kicked at church, because you did something you shouldn't. And then, I mean, the evening ended up so bad. Like, I started talking to Karina and Edith, and I was like, am I a jerk? Am I like a bad person? They're like, yeah. Like, am I bossy sometimes? They're like, yeah. Like, porque me creía como esas, like, Raven. I feel like I remember one time, like, Raven would do this thing with her besties, or like, when they would talk too much, she would, like, do this, like, cállense. I remember doing that with, like, Edith and Karina, like, ya hablaron de más. And they were like spitting it to me, like, oh, you want to hear the truth? Yeah, we kind of don't like you sometimes, you're kind of a jerk, and also kind of bossy, and you're kind of mean, but you're all that we have right now, so we kind of bear it. And I was just like, I mean, it was like a whole night of like truths. Y tenía tanta vergüenza.
Yes.
I mean, not just from like the realizing of my own character from my closest friends, but also how I handled it, that I chickened out of a fight.
Yeah.
And I went and I cried at a relatively older age.
The fact that I wouldn't say bully, but the person that wanted to beat you up, the fact that she went up to you, ya pues ya.
I cried so bad, dude, that she was like, dude, there's no point. Like, she knows what she did. And truth be told, I don't believe I ever said anything. Of course not to this person, but I don't believe I ever bullied after that. I think once I realized, like, oh, someone can actually punch you for this, me quedo callada.
But the temptation was there. You just stopped.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because now you were like, I'm going to suffer the
Yeah.
consequences.
And I don't, not anymore, have anyone to defend me. So I'm going to get the hit. And apparently, they probably were in their hearts like, no, te la mereces. Te la mereces. So that was not fun.
Oh, no, by any means. Ay. Something like that, something similar to me happened to me with so first grade, second grade, third grade, I was bullied. First and second by other kids, and third grade by my own teacher. Right. Fourth grade got a lot better. I started hanging out. I liked my teacher. He was really nice. He was really cool. I started hanging out with other people, with other kids that were bigger than me. They were more like expressive than I was.
Right.
So for a lot of things I didn't have to fight, they would do it. And then, so I started sort of gaining some confidence. And then fifth and sixth grade, I started hanging out with other girls that were llamas. Yeah, like they're the big deal. Like they are the ones that bully, So I never quite bullied anyone, but I was hanging out with the wrong crowd.
You associate.
Yeah, I associated with them. Anyway, they were not, your A students. They were the D, the C students, but they were a lot fun. So I went through that transition where I went from not having friends at all to having really a lot of friends, but they were all like the same type of, the same type of friends. Mala influencia. So I remember in sixth grade, there was this girl who was she was massive. Like tall, chunky. Like, I mean, I don't know. Have you seen Matilda? You have seen Matilda.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the name? Porque
Like a mini Mrs. Trunchbull?
Yes. Yo en español es Tronchatoro. So we started calling her Tronchatoro.
Oh.
Porque she was just that big.
She was that big?
She was big. And she was super white. Super white.
Oh.
Like, not blonde hair. I wouldn't say blonde hair, but like dirty blonde hair or
Güerita.
very light. Güerita. Very light. And so for all of us, I mean, it was this much taller than all of us. Wow. 6th grade. And massive. This girl was massive. And so I remember I befriended her because she sort of transferred. And I saw a little bit of me in her. She was very quiet. No one wanted to hang out with her. All of us were scared of her because I'm telling, she was just
In comparison
to all of us. In comparison to me, I haven't grown since 6th grade. Like,
True.
And so she was very tall. And so I befriended her, and I was, we started a good friendship, and she somehow became, I wouldn't say my bodyguard, because I was already hanging out with the bad kids,
right?
But she would sometimes just float around me, like, or around my friends, But I remember that my best friend and her didn't like each other. They were always at it. But my best friend, never actually truly like wanted to fight her. She knew better, So I remember that one time, they're fighting. My best friend se llama Carmen, y la otra, I don't remember her name, but we call her Tronchatoro. So it was Carmen and Tronchatoro fighting, and they were just pushing each other. And I remember, I come in and I'm like, ¿por qué se están peleando? No se peleen, whatever. All the while, I'm like I'm sweating because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to fight them.
Claro.
Like, on one end is my best friend who's like a little gangster. And then on the other one is this massive girl that, yeah, sure, hasn't done anything, but we don't know what she's capable of because she's massive, And so I'm like, I don't know, And so my friend Carmen looks at me and tells her, le tienes que decir a esta, y, she uses bad words, que le baje. Porque yo también ahorita le voy a dar. Y so I turned to look at her, sort of like looking for a reason, and the girl is like, she looks at me, she says, Mari, yo a ti nunca te pegaría, yo a ti nunca te haría nada, pero no te metas. So I'm like, okay. And instead of backing out, in my head, I thought, that's my cue. She just says she's never going to hit me. So I can't get involved, and she's never going to retaliate. Yeah. And so I literally me puse in the middle of them both y empujé a Tronchatoro. I pushed Tronchatoro. Tronchatoro looks at me with these eyes of unbelief. Like,
betrayal.
Yes, betrayal. In my head, I'm not betraying her because, yes, we were friends, but she was my best friend, We're not, like, we never truly hang out. She was just floating around me for no reason, And so, we're doing that, and she tells me, so I pushed her, and I obviously she wasn't waiting for that, so I did push it hard, and I did move her, and so she fell on the desks and moved all the desks, and so people started saying, "Se van a pelear, se van a pelear, se van a pelear." We were in a circle by that time, and then she starts telling me, Mari, no te quiero pegar, ya, hasta aquí, y yo. No, pero es que tú no le puedes hacer esto a Carmen porque Carmen es mejor amiga y si te está diciendo que le pares, ya párale también tú. Y Carmen, on the other end, is just sitting on the desk like this, just looking at us.
With the brains.
Yes, just looking at us kind of like. And now, later as an adult, I figured, we were just her puppets. Because this whole time I'm thinking, I'm defending my best friend who's been there, según yo, through thick and thin with me for 2 years, 5th and 6th. The bare minimum I can do out of all the time she's defended me is to defend her from the person that just told me
Que no
she's
te va a
not
pegar.
gonna touch me, she's not gonna hit me, you know. So and from the person that truly we're not really friends. Yes, I was friendly to her because I saw a lot of me in her, and I felt bad about that. So, pero she was just, you know, whatever. So she gets up, Tronchatoro gets up, and then Carmen is just sitting there looking at us like, how is this gonna unfold? And I'm looking at everyone, and everyone's looking at me like, she's really about to fight Tronchatoro?
Tú.
Yo, 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 you know, and I'm also questioning myself, am I about to fight her? Like, honestly, am I about to fight her? She has done nothing to me. If anything, she's been
A friend.
fairly okay with me, you know, fairly good. She's defended me from men, from boys. She had defended me from boys. So am I really gonna pay that? Am I really gonna bite the hand that fed me? You know, in a way. But at the same time, I'm looking at my friend. I'm thinking, but she's been there, you know, and like she has also defended me from girls and boys. So in my head, it's like, how do I do this?
Sophie's choice.
Yeah, so all I had to do was, nos vemos en el recreo, a Tronchatoro. And she said, Mari, no hagas esto. Y yo, nos vemos a la hora del recreo. Mari, no hagas esto. Ya te dije, ahí te veo atrás de quién sabe dónde, bla, 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 bla. Y ya, ¿no? Nos quedamos así porque ya venía la maestra. We fixed the desk. Nos sentamos the whole time until recess. I'm sweating bullets. I'm like, how am I going to get out of this? And then I said all the details in front of everyone. Everyone's going to go. Everyone's going to go.
She didn't remember that lesson for life.
No. So then, as I'm sweating, the whole time I'm lost in thought. I'm thinking, I'm not going to fight her. How do I get out? All I feel is a little note that gets passed to me, and it's from Tronchatoro. I think her name was Maria, but I don't remember. And it said, no te preocupes, no voy a ir, no te voy a pegar. Mari, no sé qué pasó, pero
We're good.
yo no me quiero pelear contigo, no te quiero golpear. Y yo, yes, Lord, yes. So yo nada más, I send a note back saying, okay, just don't show up. Okay, nada más no llegues, yo ahí voy a estar, pero tú no llegues. Y ya, sure enough, tell me why I show up, she doesn't show up, and everyone just after that, like, le dijeron que era una gallina.
A coward.
Ajá. And she took it.
Wow.
She took it. I'm telling you, we were like 4 months finishing the year, or yeah, so así. So no se aguantó tanto tampoco, pero she took it for me. And I remember after that, there was some sort of like respect for her.
Understanding.
Yeah, there was some sort of understanding of like, you're a true one. And I started questioning my friendship with this other girl because I was like, and at the same time, as I've said it before, I was in la escolta. So I remember that we were getting in so many, not fights, because I wouldn't get in like physical fights, but just because I was associated with her, I was also getting in trouble. So I remember my PE professor telling me, you need to stop hanging out with her or else you're going to be removed from la escolta. You can't do that. And I remember I went to another transition in my life where I was thinking, I'm feeling embarrassed of hanging out with these people. And I'm feeling embarrassed because I don't have good friends like her, where they're there through thick and thin, you know? And I feel like after that, I started making some small changes. I still didn't stop hanging out with Carmen, because Carmen, it was better to have her as a friend than as an enemy. Just, you know. And because I realized, not that I could step on Tronchatoro, no. But I realized that she was such a pure soul that I didn't need to be strategic with her in a way, you know? So I remember after that, I started talking more to other girls. I started talking more to girls that I didn't even know, like, we could be friends, that I didn't even know lived on my same street, on the same street. So we started hanging out y todo eso. So for me, I guess the embarrassing part was that, again, I realized how powerless I really am. I really was. But at the same time, because then I felt embarrassed about like, I can fight this woman. I'm not gonna fight this girl. Like she towers me this much, you know.
Oh, she
So
knocked you out.
yeah, she would have knocked me out. But the fact that I pushed her, the fact that I was like, you need to stop.
She still has a little bit of that. Like, yo puedo.
Yes, but then I'll chicken out. But I do think
Pero un aplauso para estas dos personajes. The one that defended her and that was like, todos somos pobres. And then this one that didn't beat her up.
Yes, please, guys. It's embarrassing to me now. You know, it's embarrassing to me now because it's like, I feel like those lessons as a child, they teach you justice. They teach you about like, man, I'm
the one that's in the wrong.
That's in the wrong. I'm a coward, you know.
Was even this girl, she could have, and rightfully so, beated me up. In your case, you were defending your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
I was deserving of being, beaten up.
Yeah.
But even this cousin was just like, I know you. I know physically and emotionally you can't handle what can happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not even gonna bother. And Lord knows, like, no, dude, I with that such a fragile psyche, I would have carried a good beating. Like, man, no,
Te mataron.
Me mataron,
Casi me matan, me dejan
Casi
ahí.
me matan. Lord, oh no. I always tell Joel, I'm like, with one punch, I know I'll die. Like, there's no way. I don't know if I can handle a punch. Me muero.
No, what I realized, because I did get in the fight in sixth grade, and what I realized is that I don't like fighting. I can avoid it. I don't like confrontations like that. But I did realize that I am capable of. And I think that does something to you. You realize I am a strong, in that sense, not that strength means that, but I can be a strong person.
Violent.
A violent person. No me tengo que dejar. And so I feel like after that, I started living a very different life. Even though in high school I got bullied again, but it was a different type of bullying at that point.
Yeah.
You know, it was more of like
Racism
and thinking you have friends, but they're not really your friends in a way. So it was a different type of bullying. In Mexico, it was physical bullying the whole time.
Yeah.
But it was never about, I mean, yes, in sixth grade it was about my appearance, but it wasn't, we were all looking the same. We were all color cartón,
Mexicanos, pobres,
exactly.
todo.
So there was not a lot of that, but here in the US, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of like, you live on the street? It was a lot of like, oh, and so, but yeah.
Well, you guys, this is pretty much I would say it was more like historias de niñez.
Yeah, I think so.
Historias de niñez of, embarrassing stories, things that happened to us, things that we caused.
Yeah, let's rephrase it. It was Historias de Niñez.
Historias de niñez. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you guys on the next one.
Bye.